The big step is trying to show the value and why they should pay us more that they don't have to pay, and what the value in that is. When people say, oh, you know, my eyes glaze over when I see numbers, we can go, great, well, I've got some great little graphs and things I can show you. And it's really easy if they're using Xero or even my other QuickBooks to pull the data into Fathom really quickly and just throw up a demo. It's a little sales demo, I guess. Just use one of the standard reports, pull it through. We can actually have that conversation around what we can do.
Welcome to Fathom's Expert Series. We chat with advisors, accountants and finance leaders to learn how they're using Fathom to deliver clarity and confidence and help businesses thrive. We're talking processes, top tips and key learnings. Join us for a great conversation. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Expert Series. Today we're delighted to welcome our special guest, Tori van der Donk. Tori is the Managing Director and founder of Brisbane accountancy firm Aegis. Welcome to the Expert Series, Tori.
Hi Karen, thank you.
It's great to have you with us today, and we've also got another chartered accountant from Fathom. We've got Tom Bilton joining us for our discussion today. So today with Tori, we're going to learn about her accountancy firm Aegis, who's in her team and what they're trying to achieve. And we'll also find out how Tori is using Fathom to move clients from compliance services over to advisory services. So we're really looking forward to that show and tell today, Tori. But before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you to where you are today?
It took me a long time to work out what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I tried quite a few different careers. I was a civil engineer at one point. I did childcare and things like that. And then when I was a stay-at-home mum, all kudos to stay-at-home mums, I couldn't do it. I needed the brain stimulation. So I decided to start studying accounting just to keep myself entertained because I loved maths and I'd never done accounting. I ended up finishing my degree, loving it, and found what I wanted to do with my life.
So Tori, it's safe to say you're not the average accountant, engineer and an accountant, but amazingly you're still a people person. So tell us a little bit more about the people that are in your firm and tell us about the name Aegis. What does it mean?
It's funny that you say I'm a people person. I consider myself an introvert, as though I think I'm an outgoing introvert. So I do enjoy conversing with people and having one-to-one conversations, but big groups of people I really don't like. So I suppose I started my business off just me. The name Aegis, that came as quite funny. When I was working as a corporate accountant, I worked with a business that didn't have a lot of money, and they would run their creditors list every week and it would be alphabetical. And they'd start at A and they'd pay everyone until they ran out of money. So everyone who was A, B and C got paid. Everyone who was Z didn't get paid until they rang and asked for their money. So when I was looking at a business name, I knew it had to start with A, B or C. The real pronunciation is Aegis. However, Aussies are lazy, so we just go with Aegis. The meaning of Aegis is protection, knowledge, support and guidance. And that resonated with me as what I wanted my business to be. It's a Greek mythical shield that Zeus and Athena held. If you're into gaming, the Aegis shield is always the strongest shield. So the whole meaning of the word just meant what I wanted my business to be. So I chose that. So that was about almost 10 years ago. I built the business up now. We've got 13 staff at the moment.
So Tori, fantastic to hear about why you started. Tell us about the vision you use to motivate your team when you're talking to them about the why of Aegis.
Well, that's something I had to really think about. So then I had to work out why, what was really going to drive me, what was going to get me up in the morning when times were tough. And this is a conversation I have with my advisory clients. When I'm working out where to start with them, I try and get to their why first, because when I want to know two things: what gets them up in the morning on a hard day, so that's their why, and I want to know what keeps them up at night, because that's what we want to stop. So for me, my why is I enjoy helping people, and I like when I can provide someone with a little simple tool that helps them, and then they take that and they grow or succeed or something. That really, it's a buzz for me. I like that training aspect. So we have developed our vision, and I'll read it out. Our passion is to help business owners achieve their dreams via their business's success. We support and guide businesses and owners with full service bookkeeping, accounting, and financial literacy needs. We are an employer of choice and support team members in all locations and strive to never lose our small firm feel. So we like to have a small firm, good culture, flexible, friendly, no matter where our team members are. But the main is reminding our staff that they're here for our clients, and we want people who have that same passion, that they just want to help and help people succeed.
I was curious to ask if there's any differentiation between when you first have a conversation with a brand new client or when you have a first sort of new services or advisory services conversation with an existing client. Is there any difference between the conversation, or does it always start around getting to the bottom of why the business owner is in business, what drives them, and what are their ambitions or goals or dreams?
When I'm having an initial conversation with a lead, most of them are asking how much we cost and can we do what they want. So I have a little bit of a flesh out, I only spend 10 minutes, a little bit of a flesh out around how their business is going, what they're expecting from their accountant, and why they're leaving their previous accountant. And a lot of them, it's communication, and they say they only hear from their accountant once a year. So when they say that, that's the trigger to say, well, obviously compliance is only once a year. So what do you want the rest of the year? And that's where they want advice around tax minimisation or growth with their business or cash flow. So that really leads into that advisory conversation. So I can start to have a little bit of a conversation. At that initial stage, I don't have that conversation around goals or their why or anything, because I want to be paid for that conversation. Mm-hmm. So it's not until we actually get them on board that I give them that, we have that fleshing out of the strategy so we know the direction of where we want the advisory to go. With existing clients, the history of our firm started as a bookkeeping firm, then we added tax once our bookkeeping clients started saying, why can't you do our tax as well? And then the tax clients are going, well, we want more communication, we want more information. So that's where the advisory grew. So a lot of our clients do come on to us at that first step of that bookkeeping. They want someone to help with their bookkeeping or their BAS. So the bookkeepers have conversations with the clients, they're talking to them, and there's a few triggers we look for. Firstly, when they can't pay our bill, that's an indicator of cash flow. When they can't pay the ATO, that's a big one. So that's probably the biggest one. If they're struggling to pay the ATO, the bookkeeping team then flag it to the advisory team that, hey, they might need a conversation around cash flow, which is the first step really into that advisory. If we're instigating the conversation, that is.
Into cash flow management and building a cash flow forecast, etc.
Well, that's the main thing that people see first. They don't realise that they need profit improvement or gross profit improvement or reduction in their overheads and things like that. They just see they need more cash. They haven't got enough cash, they need more. So that's usually their flag, their indicator. Yeah.
And on the flip side, I guess, any businesses with lots of cash, is that a difficult proposition to try and engage with them because they just think everything's great? And or do you find that you have some success with those clients as well in terms of persuading them to do other things? How does that work?
I do. So we had a couple recently, I think we'll speak about this later. I had a sole trader who had a fantastic year. So first year, mediocre sort of year, normal sole trader sort of turnover about of the 100K. And the next year they screamed up like 300K turnover. And so he's got a massive profit. So when the tax team finished the work, they've said to me, hey, we should have a conversation with them. So conversation ended up being we're moving them into a different structure. But along with that conversation we started talking about that strategy, why are they in business? What do they want to achieve? Do they need some assistance? Do they actually understand their numbers? That's a big thing, is understanding what their numbers are saying. They can see, they've got tons of money in the bank account, but do they actually know what that means? And then do they know the signs to look for if something starts to go the other way? And then, of course, they can have a massive tax bill. So they want a conversation with us, okay, now this month or this quarter, put this much aside for your tax so you don't get a fright at the end of the year. So those ones with more money, it's either one of two ways. We're helping them minimise their tax by different strategies, but that's really a tax thing, or we're helping them pay more tax. So getting that around their head is, it's actually good to pay more tax because it means you're earning more, and then we work out what they're going to do with that money. So it's all advisory around tax planning and things like that. But the base of it is they've got to understand their numbers, which is where Fathom really comes into play, because we can help them understand what those figures mean.
Yeah. And I guess help them understand where they could invest the cash, whether it's hiring new employees, buying new assets, opening up another stores, or et cetera, et cetera. So cool.
Yeah, that's the scenarios in Fathom are brilliant for that too. The simple thing of a plumber wants to put on another tradesman and another van. So they want to know how much it's going to cost them. That's all they think about. Can they afford to put another person on? But they forget that that person is also going to bring them some income. So being able to use the scenarios to model out, okay, if we put a tradesman on, we've got to buy them a van, we've got to fit out the van, got to put an apprentice on with them or whatever it is, but they're going to bring in some sales, so they're going to offset their cost. And are they going to offset their cost enough to pay for themselves?
Yeah, like the ROI.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
So Tori, I know your firm, you and the partner in your firm are focused on advisory. Thinking about the advisory landscape for you as you're moving more into that role, you were saying that you're getting your team to spot these triggers amongst your clients and to open up a new conversation in that advisory space. Thinking about that, what are some of the challenges you're seeing in your pool of clients at the moment to do with that need for advisory services?
Biggest challenge is the cash flow. We're in the small and medium business landscape, and cost of living means everything else goes up. So the employees want their higher wages to pay for their groceries, which then gives businesses a higher cost. Then the businesses, depending on the business, they're reluctant to increase their prices to offset those increased wages they've got to pay to keep the staff, because there's a staffing shortage. So it's all around thing. And then they're going, well, I've got no cash to pay their accountant to do the advisory work or the ATO and things like that. So I think there's a couple of things. They lose staff, so they can't get staff, or they have to pay their own staff more. That means that the owners are generally going back on the tools, which means the owner then doesn't have time to work on their business, and working with an advisory accountant is working on their business. And like a lot of us, they put that off because they can see this is going to get me more income, or I'm going to save money by not putting a new employee on, so I'll go out on the tools. I'll put my accountant off for a while. So trying to share the value of the advisory conversation is quite difficult, actually. That one I can't solve, but I can at least share that it is hard, and that's probably our biggest thing. We've got a lot of people who say, yeah, sure, we want to do the advisory, we like the idea of it, but those things come into play, the time and then the money. So we'll get people, can we spread it out to 6 months instead of quarterly because we don't want to pay the fee and things like that.
Difficult to help a business perform when you're looking at 7 months of 7 months in the past data, and
you can go broke in 2 or 3 months. You can go broke in a month with cash flow if you don't have enough working capital.
Tori, I love how you're saying that the advisory work is you and the client working on the business together, and that's a real shift in understanding in your client's mind. Can you step us through what your process is and some of your learnings along the way?
The trigger often is, we've found one of those trigger points that we've started the conversation, but often we've just completed the year-end work and we're trying to get back into having a conversation with clients around their year-end work. Back in the day, you used to get a paper copy of your financials and you go and meet with the accountant and they'd run through it and they'd hand over the paper copy of the financials. These days, you often just get emailed PDF and that's all that happens. And so that there's been a disconnect. So we're trying to bring that back in where we have a conversation, whether it's a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting with clients around their figures, making sure they understand what they've done. Then we're looking at the historical data there. So then we can able to switch the conversation to moving forward and can start talking about, well, that's what you did last year. What are your goals for next year or the current year we're doing? And then when people say, oh, you know, my eyes glaze over when I see numbers, we can go, great, well, I've got some great little graphs and things I can show you. And it's really easy if they're using Xero or even Liable QuickBooks to pull the data into Fathom really quickly and just throw up a demo. Just use one of the standard reports, pull it through, show them what we can do, and then they can actually see a bit of value there and see what we can do. We can actually have that conversation around what we can do. So it's really a little sales demo, I guess, showing them what we do. Sales technique, yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah. So that they're not just seeing us as tax compliance and telling them how much to pay the ATO, the big step is trying to show the value and why they should pay us more that they don't have to pay and what the value in that is.
And you were saying in an earlier conversation that this pre-work doesn't take you long. You don't spend too much time on it, knowing that you can build that time later. How long does it take you to build up something initially?
So if I'm going into one of those meetings where I'm just reviewing the year-end work and then a possible throwing into the next year, giving them an idea of advisory, 10 minutes or so. However, I am very good at just looking at a set of financials and getting an idea of the feel of it. So that length of time would depend on the accountant's, the advisor's experience level and how good they can do that. So people sort of say that's a bit of my superpower. I can look at some figures and go, ooh. So it doesn't take me long to do it. So I will review last year's stuff. I'll pull it into Fathom. I probably spend 5 minutes before the meeting looking at the analysis tabs and then just pulling through one of the standard reports that are there, the template reports that are there. Often I don't even look at the report. I just wing it in the meeting because I can do that. My staff probably hate me for it because I can't systemize it. And they would probably love me to actually have a proper system that's stepped out further, which is probably hindering me getting more of my staff on the advisory side because the only way they're learning at the moment is sitting in with me or watching a recording of a Zoom to see what I do, and they're creating their own procedure. But I struggle with rules.
Okay. Well, look, it's very easy, and I've seen a lot of firms do this, to build one or two templates from often using the predefined templates that already exist, deleting the sections that they're not going to focus on, you know, having that as their starting point, and getting one of the team members to write that process. When I think there's a great sort of guidance that the Gap give, and they say you do the sessions together, you lead it as the partner who knows everything. You do that a couple of times, then you do the session together, practicing, maybe both asking some questions, and then they lead the session a little bit later on. So it's like mentoring and then coaching them through that process. So you just have to do some recordings in the Loom app and give you the transcript for free. They can just turn it into a process.
That's right. It's the gradual exposure. Our bookkeeping team, the exposure is having the conversations with the clients and identifying that someone may need some of our assistance. Same with the tax team. They're identifying when they're looking at the year-end results, you know, here's someone who has suddenly got an ATO debt that they haven't had before. They've got Div 7A loans that they haven't had, so they may need some explanations about how things work. Or someone who is on a growth trajectory and they need some assistance in staying in their lane, basically, because some people can just see everything and go for everything and then they just can't control it. Watching what I do, learning from me, I've learned from watching others. So the Gap is a good example. They've got a great framework that has helped me start the process. And I've done a fair bit of training with Fathom as well, which again guides the process, and you put it all together. And then it is a conversation with a client. Any conversation, you don't pre-script a conversation. So that's how you have to understand that advisory is going to be. You're not going to walk in and say, hello, how are you? And know that they're going to say, I'm fine, thank you, how are you? You are doing the conversation on the fly. You can have an outline and have an agenda, have an outline, the things you want to address, but the conversation will flow. Yeah. And that's what you have to learn to do.
And I think that's the beauty of Fathom, that connecting the data is literally instantaneous, pretty much from Xero, etc. And then just having those analysis tools to look at the financials, look at the P&L, the balance sheet, things are jumping out at you, switch between various trends, data, and, you know, spend 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can get some fantastic information to guide the starting point. And I think we'll probably touch on some of those in a bit, but yeah.
It's very important to do that pre-work, because you don't want to walk into a meeting and say, oh, you've had a fantastic year. Oh, I'm so impressed, and find out that, no, that was the client you were on the phone to 15 minutes ago. And the client you're sitting in front of is having a terrible year and they are struggling and they don't know how they're going to pay next week's wages. So you've really got to do that pre-work before you go in. And even better, if I'm actually doing advisory, so I've got them past, they've agreed to do the advisory, I do send out pre-work asking them some questions. What's keeping them up at night? What's getting them up in the morning? What's the biggest issue at the moment, so that we can guide the conversation around that as well.
Yeah, cool.
So Tori, can you show us then some of your pre-work that you do in Fathom when you're preparing to have a client meeting? And can you show us what you actually show a client on screen in that meeting where you're proving the value of advisory and how you can educate them on their numbers?
Sure, can do. If you share my screen that I've got there. So this is, if you've been in Fathom before, this is probably the first place you go, because this is where you come to after you've linked your data in. So obviously you want to update, but I run through here and I do a quick check on the chart of accounts for simple things like, if I'm looking at cost of sales, have I got all the bits and pieces in cost of sales that I want? When I pulled this data in, subcontractor was down in expenses, so I've reclassified it up to subcontractors, because that's a really quick, easy win for this client to have that sitting in my direct costs. Then I don't even bother with the KPIs screen. I jump quickly into targets, and I will very quickly, having looked at their numbers in Xero, I throw in a target that's reasonable, because I don't want a sales target of $10,000 when they're constantly doing 50K turnover. So I just throw a couple of numbers in here, and then I will run over to the analysis section. And here, this is where I do my sense check on whether those targets are reasonable. These people have done a really great month, so they're really good. Then I have a look down all the little tabs on the side. So this is my favorite graph, visual. Green means good, red means bad. Really simple to let people know when you've got there. You can explain to the clients that obviously this data I haven't tweaked as yet, because I've just pulled the data in just to show you an example of what we can do. But you can see that when we've hit our targets, it's green. When we haven't hit our targets, it's red. And it's a really easy way to see how we're going, just in a snapshot. This is probably my second favourite graph that I make sure is in all my reports, because people often ask, what's my break even? So when I'm doing my pre-work, I'm just having a quick look to see if they have broken even or not, so that I know whether I'm going, yay, or whether I'm going, oh, we need to work on something. So I usually make sure that this graph is in my report. The cash flow, this one here, it's a really good report if you understand the difference between cash and accruals. However, it's really difficult to explain to a client, so I usually remove it out of reports. So one thing I want to get across is that even if you're using the standard reports, pull out the things that you're not confident sharing. The client doesn't know that it was ever in there. So you can still look amazing, because you just need to know a little bit more than your client when you're first starting out to make them, for them to be feel that you're really good. Again, the trends, this is really good. And Tom reminded me the other day that I can add extra series in here. So I can add the gross profit margin in here. I can even use a predefined chart to get some different graphs in here. So if I add then the gross profit margin is always a good one, but we can see this data, and this data goes back as far as the history of the data that we're pulling in. Those are the analysis bits that I pull in, because I do find that this is the visual side that people, they get it a bit more, especially like a graph. This gross profit, I think, is the red. So they can see, yay, it was great. Oh dear, it was bad. Yay, it was good. It was getting a bit better. Oh, it's dropping a little bit. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. So they can see that. So that's really good. And then, so I've done that. I've had a quick look there, and then I'll run into reports, and I will create a report, use a template, because we're just doing a sales call basically with the clients. Where am I? Month The monthly performance report is usually the one I pull up, create that. It sucks the data straight out of my data file, which is awesome. I check that they've got the month using the most recent one. And then I come down here and I look at the executive summary and I think, yep, I can explain that. Yes, I can explain that. Activity ratio, I don't want to talk about that today. So let's just remove it out of there because they're going to ask me questions that I don't want to answer straight up. So go delete on a few of those. Come down here, great, my little KPI wheel is there, which is awesome. This is a different preference. I can't think.
Perspective.
Highlights different ways. Perspective, that's the word. Thank you, Tom. Different perspective of the KPI wheel. This shows the numbers so we can translate that KPI wheel into numbers so they can get the connection. So that's fine. Depending on the client, I will leave this one in. If they've only got one sales item, sometimes I don't leave it there, but it does show a bit of a sales trend, but you can use the sales things at the bottom. Trend results, profitability, because I love this one because it's really easy for people to see that this is their break even, and in this case, they were above the break even. I usually leave these in, but I gloss over them in the meeting, but it shows that we can do it. This one, I usually delete just on this first one because it's really hard to explain to people. And same, I may even, if I'm only having a quick discussion with them, I'll delete that as well. And this one I definitely delete. Again, people just don't understand it. Accountants probably love it. Me personally, I don't understand it yet. So Tom, I need more instruction on this one.
No, yeah, sure.
And then you wouldn't be an accountant if you didn't put a profit and loss and a balance sheet in. So that one stays. So I just tweak the report like that, and then I'm ready to go. When the client comes in, I just pull this report up, show it on the screen, and run them through and say, look, this is what we can do. And I explain a little bit about each thing using their own data.
And I think the great thing about Fathom is some of the tools are really for you for analysis purposes. For example, maybe it's the cash flow waterfall, or maybe it's the growth tool. You will instantly get a feel and a cemented piece of knowledge as to how the business is performing. Is it going backwards? Is it in distress? Are they taking out far too much cash out of the business compared to the revenue? So those tools, don't always, you don't have to include those specifics for clients. But if they're, super smart CFO type, might be a CFO of a business, but so you might be able to have that conversation on a future date, but they're up your sleeve to include if you need to. But yeah, for most clients, keeping things simple and talking about the things that they understand and helping educate them is the key bit for sure.
And that's exactly right. And you explain the parts of the report the way they understand it. So a CFO, I would be talking to them about this section here in a completely different way to someone who's relatively new in business. So a CFO, I'm probably talking about our percentages and the actual dollars and things like that. However, with someone who's we're moving them from that compliance across to advisory, I'd probably just explain that, here it's gone down, which is not good. Here it's gone up, which is good. And here it's gone up a little bit more. So they can actually see that it's gone up a little bit and down a little bit. And I remember talking to Karen the other day. I am in a choir and I don't read music. So the way I work out what I've got to sing next is I can see that the notes go up a little bit. So I know my voice needs to go a little bit higher. And the note goes down a little bit. So my voice has to go down a little bit further. So same thing here. You can see the ups and downs and they can see good and bad based on they can see the trends basically. It's explaining a trend to them that way when they don't actually know what a trend is.
Yeah. A bit of insight from a couple of accountants I've heard is presenting the exact same data in 4 different views. So 4 different graphs, a vertical bar graph, a pie chart, a trend line, and that can tease out how a prospective client or an existing client actually likes to receive information, as in, do they understand it when it's more in a pie chart, or do they understand, what gets them excited about seeing their data? So that's definitely a cool tip because it's very quick to replicate that line chart and turn it into another chart just by quickly editing it, and won't go into the details now, but yeah, very fast. So and
then you just save that report, and then you know what this particular client wants. So you can tweak this monthly report to what you as a firm like to start as your monthly report and create a custom starting report. But then you tweak it based on what the client knows. I've got a couple of creative clients, the designers and things like that. Numbers, eyes glaze over. They just worst nightmare to look at numbers. So they don't have any numbers in their reports. It's just graphs. And that works well with them.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, yeah, it's a good point just to reiterate that you mentioned about the ability to just save a report as a template, and you can use it for another client and tweak it a little bit for them, and obviously keep using the same one for the client that you've just had a conversation with. So I think sometimes people don't understand Fathom. You can create as many reports templates as you want, and you can share those with other clients. So yeah, definitely good to know. And of course, that data in Fathom is automatically every day updating. So those reports every day are up to date. Now, if you go and make an adjustment in Xero 20 minutes ago, then yes, you might need to quickly update for that 20 minute, but good to know, yeah, that all your reports are always up to date as long as you've brought the data in and synced it. So yeah,
that's right. And having that quick look before the client comes in allows us to notice things like, here you'll see that, oh no, nothing's changed there. And when we look at the balance sheet, the debtors haven't changed at all, because I didn't do a journal to bring in, my accounts payable has been $5,000 for the last 12 months on this one, because it's just dummy data in this case. But if I had that quick look before my client comes in, I can go, oh, whoops, something's not right. Jump back into the source data, into my Xero file, quickly correct it, jump back into Fathom, press update, because my report's already templated. It's here. It's going to bring the corrected data through, which is just fantastic. The ease of the integration is just a godsend.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The feedback we get is Fathom is, the fastest to use of all the products and the best, the most well built, in terms of the intuition. So kudos to the founders who built Fathom. And also I'd just say with the report, you can bring the data up in the report and have a look and do that quick analysis. There's also your P&L, balance sheet and cash flow in the analysis section. So you can also do it there. So you've got two options for how you quickly move between and understand the data. I wanted to ask actually, Tori, what is the typical client reaction when you have a meeting with them and you bring up, data in this format that sort of quite a visually compelling? Do you notice anything behavior-wise that changes, or, are they unimpressed? Are they impressed? I'd be keen to hear what the typical response would be when you actually spend some time with a client.
I like to think that most of them are impressed, and generally they are. So usually, they come to the meeting and think, oh my gosh, my accountant wants to talk to me. It's got to be bad. And they come in, and then I'm showing them a possible future and goals. So often a bit of a light goes on. They start to see there's a possibility of growth or profit or future. And that can often shoulders drop there. So oh, wow. And they'll sit at the screen, and actually open mouth wow is possibly what I get sometimes, especially those that don't understand their numbers. The graphs and the diagrams help them start to understand, and they can see the possibility of what talking to me can do. So by actually having a communication stream with the accountant, there's some promise of a future. It's not just, oh my gosh, how much tax have I got to pay? Oh dear, I've got to pay another BAS. Here's another thing I've got to pay, all of this sort of stuff. So seeing that, they can actually start to see some value.
Yeah, I think that's the key word, isn't it? They suddenly understand the value of their accountant.
The most different reaction I had was I made a client cry. So one of those creatives I had who's had always said her eyes glaze over, she cried. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? But she was actually crying because she was so grateful that someone finally understood how to speak these numbers to her. So I spoke her language, and she cried. And so I always joke about now how I made her cry.
Oh, that's pretty cute.
As a creative person who has no grasp of numbers, I appreciate your thinking through how to customize all the components, because I find numbers impossible.
Well, if you think about it, a lot of us have got kids going through school, and there's the new maths. I don't understand it. I'm an accountant. I should know maths. I don't understand the new maths because of the way it's been explained. So if you think about that, if you explain to your child the way you learnt maths as a child, they might get it when they don't understand the new math. So it's all about explaining it in a different way, the way that they can hear it and understand it. So that's where this comes about. It's finding the right tweak of the reports or the parts of Fathom that can help us explain it so that they get it. And then when they get it, they're not as afraid of the numbers and it's not as scary, not as much of a mystery, and then they can start to actually do something with it.
And it's not just the ability to sort of do this quite quick, pull something together quite quickly, but also I think one of the great things about Fathom is that you've got a combination of quite a lot of different visual elements that are quite different. The KPI Explorer is a great example. We all understand the break-even chart. That's another one, the cash flow waterfall, et cetera, et cetera. Plus you've got all the graphs and charts, and that really allows you to explore show them a range of things and be getting their feedback as to the things that actually are, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I understand that. Or, oh, that makes sense. You really do get that two-way. It's a communication tool, really. So, yeah.
And one bit of gold, Tom, is the goal seek, because even just pulling the data through 5 minutes before the meeting, but if you show them the goal seek and you say, look, we've spoken about you're increasing your prices by 1%, and showing them how that changes their goal seek, it's an indicator of how, if they work with us, that we can help them achieve those different goals. That we've got tools. It's not just us making it up on the spot, though sometimes we do. We've actually got some tools which are going to help them, and that's why they should work with us, because we've got those tools.
Can we show,
rather than just watching a YouTube video on how to improve their profit, they can see that by working with us with the tools that we've got, that we can actually help them improve.
And that you understand how to use the tools and then translate that reality of what they've been doing in the past into something new that they can take action with and get towards their goals. Goal Seek tool is a fantastic part of the platform. I had so much great feedback right through from PwC, Deloitte, etc. Big, huge companies, right through to, small to medium-sized accounting firms. Everyone loves that. That one's a real call out.
Tori, can you show us Goal Seek on screen?
Sure. So where I want to go, back to reports, and I want to go to analysis, and it's over on the side here. It's a little telescope. So you just choose what we want to do. So say our gross profit margin, it's currently 57.62%, and we want to, I'll just use the figures that it's pulled up here, the 64. So we just move the little slider here. So the price, so we're looking at our price, so that's on our sales side. If we increase our prices by 1%, I can't quite get it.
You can also type in the 1% on where it says.
Oh, there you go. So where do I do that?
Just where it says 1%. Where it says 0.9, you just where it says change. There's a heading change to the left. The left-hand side, price.
There, right. So I can, so if I can, there you go, learn something new every day. So I can increase my pricing just by a tiny 1%, and that's increased our gross profit margin. And then if we change our variables, a simple thing is paying our suppliers early, the ones that give us a discount. So they might give us a 5% discount. I probably want to go minus 5%. There we go. So for those suppliers that we get a 5% discount for paying on time or early, that's made a massive difference to our gross profit margin. So being able to show clients how little changes can get them towards the targets that we're aiming for is really beneficial, because you can go right down to net profit after tax. Now that's always a good one. So that gives us a lot more different things. And as long as we've got everything set up right, we can go, right, how do we want to change this? How much does that affect it? And if I change that and change this, and what's actually achievable? This is not achievable, so let's move that down. It's pretty, it's visual, and it's immediate.
Meaningful and immediate. Yeah, it's a great tool, and I think that some of the metrics, that breaks it down into high and medium and maybe even low sensitivity, so you can work out which are the drivers that have more power that you can change to actually get towards that goal. Okay, let's talk about your products. Let's talk about your services. Let's talk about the price of them. How feasible is it to adjust? Have you adjusted for inflation already? What about the volume? Is there a possibility to do maybe some marketing to increase the volume, or trim back costs? Which costs are completely cuttable? Or let's talk about your suppliers and which ones we could renegotiate the contracts, etc. So having a think for each driver, what are the things that will influence? We could then break down the tactics for each of those things. So
it's all conversation starters. And I mean, you just saw, I don't know it perfectly, but I know enough to know more than my client and to be able to demonstrate what we can do. I'd love to have more time myself and delve back in. So for anyone watching, I don't know Fathom inside out, but I'm using it enough to be able to pique the interest of my clients to move them from compliance across to advisory and start having those conversations and working towards it.
Yeah, I love that, Tori, because in a prior conversation you were saying one of your key drivers is, and you've said this, understanding your client's goals and then breaking it into baby steps to get them towards those goals. So from this conversation, how do you move them into the next phase? How do you move them into a structured advisory service?
So this is the hard part when you're not a salesperson or you've never had sales training. And I work with my own coach on this. It's that getting them across the line, that call to action and all of that. I have the conversation around, I've gone through the whole, this is what we could do. And then I ask them, what do you think? Should we book you in? We can start with a strategy session to work out what our first step is, what the goals are. And then we can put you in for the quarterly meetings to work with me so that we can keep you accountable and we can start working on the goals. Then I do what everyone tells you in these situations is I shut my mouth and listen and wait for the awkward silence. And then hopefully they will say, sure, book me in. Don't care how much it costs. They never do. But it'd be nice if they did. But this is an area where I do struggle, but I do get some of them across the line. It's really trying to sell that value. Booking them in for the next meeting really is the first thing. So having that, would you like to do this? Do you think we could work together? You bring your knowledge about your business. I'll bring the knowledge about the numbers. We'll meet in the middle and have a conversation and we will grow your business or whatever their trigger is.
There's a lot going on in that dynamic, isn't there? There's the accountant having the tools to open up the business to the business owner, and then there's the business owner changing what they think the accountant does. So there's a lot of newness going on in that interaction, isn't there?
Yes. And sometimes they don't see the value straight up. So they'll go away and go, oh, no, thank you. However, I just still keep having the conversation. So in any interaction with them, I'm looking for more triggers. So if they are struggling, then those ATO debts are, oh no, my super's due next week. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Then I can have a conversation. Would you like to have a conversation around your cash flow? My fee is this. We can help you with this. My fee is this. I've got to remember that bit. That my fee is this. And then by continuing to have the conversation and reminding them that we do offer this service, they often usually come on board at a later stage. So when they're ready to hear it, really.
Yeah, so it can just be only when they're in a painful situation. Often can be, when they feel the need that they have to take action. I think it's boiling things down into small projects as well. We can actually build out your cash flow forecast, or we can do the budget for the financial year for you, and it's only $2,000 or $3,000. You know what I mean? It's and by the way, that's tax deductible. By the way, so you're not paying that.
We just always throw that
in. So then that isn't a $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 service. That is a project. But actually, then they see the value of that. You can, there's a whole load of things that gets unpacked. Oh, I didn't realize that about I need to think about the gross profit margin. Shouldn't have all these products. Now we're building this budget out, or, they've got given some information about the cash flow, and as you're building that out. So it's all of these small projects are opportunities to deliver more and more, them to see more and more value, which then helps them get comfortable in their mind that actually maybe I should be doing this quarterly or monthly management reporting so I can actually drive the performance of my business forward. So yeah, small steps for some, and some are just ready to get on board straight away. So yeah.
Yes, if you're having the conversation continuously, just reminding them that we do offer those services, you'll get that time when they ring and they say, oh, can I have an emergency cash flow meeting? And so you deal with the fire that they've got at the moment. You help them put that fire out. But then you leave those little things that, we can always still have the conversation. Did you want to meet again next month to see how you're going, or next week, depending on how dire the situation is? And letting them know that there is so much more that we can do. As you said, there's projects we can do. So the current project might be that cash flow. How are they going to pay that next BAS or the super? But then we can step over that. And once we get that sorted, then we can go, right, how do we get past this and actually make some money? Or how do we get past this and make it so that you're only working 4 days a week?
Mm.
Tori, one of our big questions for today is, can you step us through some of your key learnings? And one of your top tips is actually using the consolidation feature in Fathom. Can you share with us that amazing tip? I know Tom was super impressed when you told us the other day about how you're using it for sole traders who are becoming companies.
Yes. When you think consolidation, you think often of 2 or 3 businesses owned by the same type of people that you need to meld all the figures together. That's normal consolidation, and you've got to do eliminations and all this sort of stuff. And it's often only larger clients that need that information. We often use consolidations where a business has changed entities along the way. So for my own business, I started as a sole trader, then I moved to a trust, then I moved to a partnership, and then I moved to a company. So I wanted to try out every entity possible. Not really, but it feels like it. But there's brilliant history in all those figures. So I use a consolidation to consolidate all of those entities so that I get the trends all the way through. So when someone moves from a sole trader to a company, which is the most common change, if they're starting a company and you go, oh, let's do some advisory, there's no point if they've only got 1 quarter's worth of data. So if you do a consolidation with their sole trader data, they can see that they started off at nothing because they started the business. They built their sole trader up. We moved them to a company and the trend continued or didn't continue, whatever. So using that consolidation as the tool to bring the trends in is very valuable. It helps them see where they're going because, it's a lot more cost to run a company. It's a lot more legislation. There's a lot more requirements and all of that. And for someone who's just been a sole trader and they just take all their money out of the business and they only know if they're doing well because they've got money in the bank account, switching to a company can be quite scary and it's quite onerous. So being able to remind them where their business is going by having that history across the couple of entities is very valuable. And the bonus is that you don't pay for an extra company in your Fathom. If you've got a sole trader in a company and a consolidation, you're only paying for the sole trader and the company. You don't pay for the consolidation. It's free.
Yes.
Heard it first here, folks, from Tori Donk. Great consolidations too.
Just ask me, I'll give you consolidations for free.
No need to pay for your consolidated group entity. Same with benchmark group entities as well. So yeah, lots of power in Fathom, and we try to make it super easy for people to, as long as the underlying data, you brought that in, then we want to try and facilitate and bubble up more information. So key to be able to go back in time and bring all that data in to provide more insights.
So Tori, 2 more questions to round out our interview. The first is, can you tell us what is in the Aegis tech stack?
Our tech stack. So it's probably easier if I start right from the beginning when a client comes on board. Probably the first tech stack is the fact that we've got a VoIP phone number. So that's where they first come through to us. So obviously we've got a website and things like that, but the VoIP phone, which means that I can answer phone calls on my computer, on my mobile phone. I can be, like last week I was at the mechanic getting my car serviced. Clients rang their main number and they got put through to my mobile number. They didn't know they never get my mobile number. It's a secret. But as far as they were concerned, I was just being transferred within the office. So that's the first conversation because that's where we have our lead conversation. Getting onboarding, we're using Ignition. Depending on whether we're getting, it can be just an engagement letter or we're also taking payment up front for some services. Ignition then integrates with Carbon. So we use Carbon for our workflow. So accepting the proposals in Ignition triggers off however many work items in Carbon, which will get allocated to the appropriate staff. It also creates jobs in XPM. So we're using Xero Practice Manager as our practice software. So all gets set up in there just by them pressing I accept on their Ignition. Most of our clients are on Xero. We do have a few using MyOb or QuickBooks, but the majority of our clients, maybe 90% are on Xero. So the rest of our work is around using Xero. So we use Dext as a preference, but we do use HubDoc. And then we're using, so that's all the BAS and compliance is all through Xero Practice Manager. Then for the advisory, we're using Fathom for the reporting, and we're using the Gap portal for the framework and minutes and how to step through what we do for advisory. And that allows us to get other people in the team to come into the advisory because they step out processes and things like that. And then probably the other main one we use is Content Snare. So we send questionnaires, like when a new lead comes on board, we gather or a tax checklist or things like that. We send out some questionnaires using Content Snare. Content Snare then pushes into SharePoint. So we use SharePoint for so Microsoft Office and SharePoint. Content Snare drops the results into SharePoint. So it's already saved in SharePoint. So the results of the questions are there. So that's for all the tax and the bookkeeping work. And then we use the Gap, the pre-work questionnaires in the Gap for the advisory type questionnaires. It's probably a whole pile more, but that's the main workflow tech stack that we use.
Wow, it sounds like you've got your automation really well dialed in.
I always joke that I'm lazy and I hate stuffing around, so I find the most efficient way to do things.
Yeah. And I guess and I'm going to just pull out one bit in Fathom because it would be amiss of me not to, but I guess the fact that in Fathom you can also instantly build a forecast or a budget because all the data's in there and that all automatically flows into the reporting. It's all very fluid. So if you do need to then build that forecast or build that budget, you can just do it in a second. Well,
you can do it on the fly.
But you've got the data all ready to go, and it all integrates into the automated reporting. So really smooth, I think. So.
Yeah, you can get a 70% correct forecast if your data is clean. You can pull it into Fathom and do it on the fly. So you can have that emergency phone call going, the client going, I'm just driving past your office. Can I come in because I need to talk to you? And you can quickly pull it in and have a conversation and help them out.
My final question is around mindset. I know you've worked closely got yourself a coach. I think you've found quite a lot of benefit from having someone maybe challenge you a bit or help you think a bit differently. Maybe you could give us your insights into that experience.
Sure. I have 2 business coaches. I have one I've been working with for maybe 7 years or so, and she works on behaviour. So she looks at the big picture, the strategic picture around business. So we worked out what I want. Same thing I ask my clients. What do I want my business to do? Why am I in business? What is it going to get me? What is the indicator that I'm doing well in business? Is it that I'm able to sit on a beach all week and just bring the office once a week and, provide my gold bit of information? Or I want to earn some money, or I want to sell the business for an absolute fortune and travel the world, whatever that thing is. So she keeps that on track, but works with our behaviours. So, that call to action and closing the sale, those sorts of things, I work with her on that focus, trying to stay within those rules that I'm supposed to be, the parameters on frameworks and things like that. So that coach works on behaviour on that. Then I work with a specialist coach who works mostly with accounting firms and getting our processes and getting advisory on board and all of that. So that's a specialist coach in the accounting industry that I work with. I learn something every single time I speak to my coaches. They keep me on track. They make sure I don't go off and go, oh, shiny, and head off to something else. So I think that every business owner should have a coach. I know all the stuff that they're telling me. I tell my clients that, but you can't see it yourself. It's the old trick about the carpenter with their house falling down around them. You can't see it if you're too close to it. So you need that person outside of it helping you. And that's also a way to explain advisory to clients. They may know their business inside and out, but they need someone just removed a step to see the things that they are too close to see, to be able to point these obvious things out and help them work through them, keep accountable for them.
Yeah, make changes and do things differently. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I love it. It's like every doctor needs a doctor.
That's
and
it.
Every advisor needs an advisor. This is our last question and one of our favourites. What is one thing that accountants don't talk about enough that they should be talking about?
That's a question without notice. That's a hard one. What should accountants be talking about that they don't talk about? I'm going to go off on a tangent and say that accountants should be talking about their mental health more than they do. It's been a very tough few years for everyone, and particularly the accounting industry. And too many people are suffering burnout, and they're not asking for help with their mental health or with time or the workload and things like that. So I think that we need to say when we're not okay is probably what it is. That's where we need to lean on our industry or our friends and say when we're not okay, and it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great answer, and I love the way that you care for your team, and you've got some great business rules around, work-life balance as well. So thanks, Tori. It's been great talking to you and unpacking your process today. Love hearing about Aegis. Love the culture you're setting and the way you care for your clients and your own team. We really appreciate hearing about it today, and thanks for chatting with Tom and I.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.